the people. I mean, I saw somebody who looked like me.
Yes. that might be a cousin, you know.
Definitely a family member that was captured and brought in here. Because no one will ever tell your stories better than yourself. So that is the narrative that I'm on, telling people that it's about time for us to tell our own stories.
Now we are joined by Ghanaian YouTuber and content creator Kobina Wode Maya Akan, who is currently visiting Grenada as part of a tour of the Caribbean region. Now Wode Maya's goal is to connect Africans across the diaspora and help them know each other and to showcase the beauty of every country that has an African presence. Now his presence in Grenada was first brought to the Grenadian people's attention when he posted a photo on his popular Facebook page, indicating that he was in the country, having arrived on island via a JetBlue flight. Now, over the last 9 years, I can't believe it's almost a decade, Wode Maya has built a niche through engaging storytelling, collaborations, and travel features across his various digital platforms. Now, his dedication to his craft has helped him build an audience of just over 2 million people across YouTube and Instagram alone. Now, Wode Maya started vlogging when he was studying aeronautical engineering in the People's Republic of China, initially creating videos about his experiences as an African student living there, which eventually led him to focus on bridging the gap between Africa and its rich diaspora through his YouTube channel. His moniker, Wode Maya, itself comes from a Chinese phrase meaning, "Oh my God." Now, as a result of his documented visits to several African and Caribbean countries, he has managed to interview a plethora of diplomats, entrepreneurs, and cultural icons. Notable on his list are former President of the Republic of Ghana, John Kufuor, renowned Kenyan lawyer and Pan-Africanist, Professor Lumumba, and the chairman of Air Peace Airline, Alan Onemaya, a CEO of Instant Vehicle Manufacturing Company Limited, and of course, the Caribbean's own Mia Mottley, who is, of course, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Barbados. We're happy at this time to be joined by Wode Maya as our first guest for this week's edition of the Bubb Report. Wode Maya, Akwaba to Grenada, my friend.
That's it. That was a brilliant intro, man. I was like, wow, that's so beautiful.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. And welcome to Ghana, outside of Ghana, which is Grenada. Welcome.
Facts. Thank you so much. I mean, yesterday I actually experienced the Independence Day, celebrated the Independence Day with you all, and I look left, right, middle, center. All I'm seeing is the Ghana colors, the red, yellow, green. I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm in Ghana. And I shared the exciting news with people, and they were like, where are you? Are you sure you're not hiding in Ghana? I'm like, no, this is not Ghana.
Are you sure you're not at Red Square in Accra?
That's what people were thinking. Like, I'm somewhere. This is not Ghana. This is Grenada.
Yeah, absolutely. So welcome. Now you've made your way around the Caribbean. You've been in Trinidad and Tobago. I saw you in other islands. Of course, it seems as though you fell in love with Trinidad and Tobago a lot, so much so that you're going back for Carnival. I've been following you, sir. I've been following you. So
I don't know.
I'm a fan.
I don't know what I'll be going for the Carnival again this time around. But
okay.
Let's see whatever comes up, you know.
Yeah, so just a quick icebreaker question. You studied in China, so yeah. I suspect you speak some Mandarin Chinese.
Daran, what Daran 会说中文？
你讲中文吗？我也是讲中文。
我当然讲中文，你听懂我？
但是我不是在中国学中文，我在台湾学中文。
在台湾学中文也可以，
对，
台湾也可以。
Very well. So we have something in common there. And in fact, when I was in Taiwan, I was part of a group called Pan-Africana. It was a drumming and dance group. that was actually the director is from Ghana himself. So, you know, I had an opportunity to meet some Ghanaians over there. Now, let us talk, Wode Maya, about the role of African vloggers like yourself in uniting Africa and the Caribbean. And really what you're doing, in my view, is bucking this long-held colonially created divisions that the colonizers have done successfully for hundreds of years, where they've been able to divide Africa and the Caribbean, and of course, Central and South America as well, when in fact, we have so many ties that bond that were broken by colonialism. So let's talk about that work that you're doing.
Yep. So basically, I realized that we don't know ourselves, even as Africans. I started making videos in Africa, showcasing Africa in a positive light, and also just allowing Africans to get to know themselves within Africa. And whilst on that journey, I realized that, oh my goodness, that people reaching out for me from the Caribbean. And they were like, you know what? We do exactly the same thing in the Caribbean. And I'm like, personally, I don't even know. So why not just take a trip to the Caribbean myself, just to go connect and bridge the gap between Africans in Africa and Africans in the diaspora. And you won't believe that when I came in here, the similarities were mind-blowing, man. I couldn't believe that after 400 years of slavery, people are still connected back to the motherland. And the saddest part of it all is that most of them didn't even understand or know that what they are doing actually came from the motherland. So me coming in here, connecting the dot, I think a lot of people fell in love with me, and it's been an incredible journey. So when I got a call that I had to just come in here for the Independence Day, I mean, I got a call in the morning, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I bought a ticket, 11 o'clock, I was on the plane.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let us talk about that. You know, many Grenadians who visited Ghana, including myself, say the same thing. So there is a woman, a fan of the show, Sue Patrice. She runs a travel company that takes Grenadians and other Caribbean people and Africans in the diaspora really to Ghana as part of that homecoming ancestral trip. Of course, you know, the former president, Nana Akufo-Addo, he has done a lot around ensuring that Ghana can capitalize on the homecoming initiatives. But one of the things that even myself and Grenadians say when they visited Ghana was as if they felt as if they arrived in Grenada. And that's how I felt when I was in Ghana. In so many respects, the language, the mannerisms, the food, how people greet you, you know, everything felt as if I was home, and it really felt home.
We're just the same people, and that's exactly how I feel in here. Like, personally, I don't even feel like I'm in another country. I feel like I'm back home. The people are just the same people, warm heart of the people. I mean, the colors, the national colors of this beautiful country. It's just like the only thing that was missing is the black star.
The black star, that's right.
That's the only thing that is missing. But guess what? Since we have more black people living in here, it still represents the black star, because the black star is more like the hope of Africa. And if you will know that the black star actually came from the Caribbean. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of that.
The black star, the black star in the Ghana, the black star in the Ghana flag is from Marcus Garvey's Black Star line of trying to take 400 million African in the diaspora back to Africa, inspired Kwame Nkrumah to take the black star in our flag.
Yeah. So what do you think Kwame Nkrumah would think of what you're doing now of blessed memory?
I think he'll be so proud of me. He's definitely gonna be so proud of me, because I've seen people connecting my work to Marcus Garvey and Kwame Nkrumah, and I'm like, you know what? For me, I just feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, because I feel like my people needs to get to know each other. But if people start comparing me with Kwame Nkrumah, and I'm like, those guys did a lot, I'm just touching the surface, you know. So
yeah, you know, in the context of Pan-Africanism and that post-colonial struggle, Kwame Nkrumah was, in fact, one of the forefathers of the movement that also inspired the Caribbean, because as when Ghana with that post-independence movement, post-colonial independence movement, so did the Caribbean, you know. So he is certainly a very important figure in Pan-Africanism. Now, you said you saw some similarities with Ghana and Grenada. Can you talk about those similarities and what you saw, what you've been seeing? I know it's early days yet, and I'm sure there's a lot more for you to see.
I think the first similarity that I saw was literally the people. The people. I mean, I saw somebody who looked like me.
That might be that might be a cousin, you know.
Definitely a family member that was captured and brought in here.
That's right.
That's literally the first thing. And another thing that I saw that, I mean, after being here for past few days, how you see people selling artifact, like more like on the roadside, you know, selling like souvenirs on the roadside. If you go to Africa, everywhere in Africa, roadside, you see people selling souvenirs. And that is something that I picked up from here. I think literally you guys love God. It's like Christianity is inbuilt in the people. And I saw it during the Independence Day. I mean, after the Independence Day celebration, you guys held a concert where they were praising God before they started the whole festival. Literally, that's exactly what we do in Ghana. I mean, I cannot talk much about the similarities because I've not done a lot, but from
I know you've not done a lot, but those initial impressions, yes.
Exactly. From tomorrow onwards, I'm definitely going to do a lot of connection. And I think everybody's talking about oil down, and I've seen how oil down is being prepared. And trust me, I can connect it with the food back home. But I don't want to taste it for now. I just want to taste it on camera and give the real time impression.
Give that real time live impression. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now you visited several Caribbean islands.
Yeah.
And what strikes you about the Caribbean that causes you to always come back to the region in the way that you do?
The fact that the people just look like us. There's similarities in our language. There is similarities in our food. I mean, everything that you do in here is us. Caribbean is more like home for me. It's more like there is culture in here. Take me to Europe, take me to America, and I'll be like, okay, is that all? But bring me in here, bring me to the Caribbean, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm home. You know, I can be in the Caribbean for like 6 months without getting tired, because it still feel like I'm back home in Ghana. I mean, 2023, I spent 6 months in the Caribbean, and people were begging me, come back home, come back home. I'm like, don't disturb me. I'm home already. I'm home already. So that is what makes me feel so happy whenever I find myself in here. Literally, there's no place like home, and the Caribbean feels so much like home for me. I mean, when I was in Tobago, you won't believe that there's a food that they call it kokonte. And in Ghana, it's the same name that we call it. And they eat kokonte with kalaloo. And I was like, do you know that this food is from the continent? There's like, no way. I'm like, we have the same name for it. And they didn't even know it. So it's just the similarities that makes me keep coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the context of food. Now, when I was in Ghana as well, I tried the hibiscus drink. Now, when I tried the hibiscus drink, I said, but no, we have the same thing, except we call it sorrel, right? But in Ghana, you guys drink that every day, almost every day in Ghana, whereas in the Caribbean, it's sort of seasonal. So yes, you talk about those culinary delights. So in essence, you don't have to leave. You can stay here, you know, take out your Grenadian citizenship.
That is what I think I can just use your platform to request. His Excellency the Prime Minister of this beautiful island. Please, I'm one of you now. I think it's about time for you to give me my citizenship. I think the people can start voting for that, man.
That's right. I would vote for that. I would vote for that.
I just feel like, you know, it's about time for me to represent the Caribbean very well, because listen, I will be coming back over and over again in order to connect us, bridge the gap. But you know, it's so difficult coming in here. You always have to get a visa to the UK, visa to United States before you come in here. So I think maybe I am just hoping that maybe one of the prime ministers will wake up and say like, hey, we need this guy to help us, project our Caribbean region to our fellow brothers and sisters on the continent. So a second citizenship won't be bad, man. And I want the second one to be in the Caribbean, for real.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the things you spoke about was just the reaction you get from the Caribbean. What has been the reaction back home in Ghana to the work that you've been doing, not only in the Caribbean, but in the way that you are really connecting the African diaspora around the world?
I think Africans in Africa are even shocked because when I came in here, they could not believe it. I mean, let me just give you an example. When I posted yesterday about I'm in Grenada, Africans were like, "Where is Grenada?" You know, that's the first impression. Now, when I posted a picture with black people around, they were like, "That's Africa." And I'm like, "No, this is not Africa. This is the Caribbean." I feel like the connection that I'm doing right now is making so much sense to the extent that when I go back to Africa, they call me Mr. Caribbean, you know, because Mr. Caribbean, because I think through my videos, a lot of people have been able to learn a lot. The culture, even people are connecting dots that I didn't know. Let me tell you something. This is something that I found out. When you go to Jamaica, they have ackee and saltfish that they eat in there. Yes. If you go to Ghana, I'm sure when you went to Ghana, you never saw ackee and saltfish, people eating ackee and saltfish in Ghana. So the question is, how did ackee and saltfish, or ackee, the fruit itself, move from the continent Africa to the Caribbean? So during transatlantic slave trade, people were taken from the northern part of Ghana. So from the northern part of Ghana, they eat ackee. So they put ackee in their hair and brought it to the Caribbean. But those of us living in the South don't eat ackee. So there was no connection from there until I came to the Caribbean, found out that, hey, why is it that us living in the South, we don't eat ackee? And the Northerners were like, please, ackee is everything for us. So you went to Asin Manso. They told you that people took their last bath in Asin Manso.
The last bath. I actually went to that river. Yes, it was a very moving experience.
Thank you. So those guys were taken from the north, walk all the way over 300, 400 kilometers just to come and take their last bath. And then from their last bath, they put them in the slave castles, waiting to be shipped to the Caribbean. So there's a lot of connections that even historians are not telling you until I came to the Caribbean. So I feel like when you go to Ghana, one of the best places that you need to go is actually the northern part of Ghana, if you really, really want to trace your roots. But because even Ghanaians themselves don't know this history, so no one is talking about it.
So when you say the north, are you talking about the Kumasi area? Is that the area?
No, that's like the northern region. The northern region we call the savannah. We call the Wa.
The Wa. Okay.
Tamale. Wa. Upper east, upper west part of Ghana. There is even like a slave market called Salaga Market, where they used to buy slaves from there, walk them all the way to the southern part of Ghana, and then waiting to be shipped. But you know, people don't know this history. I mean, let's talk about like the Black Americans. They're so tall. But if you go to Ghana, you realize that Ghanaians like myself, like most of us, are short. But the north part of Ghana, Burkina Faso, sharing the border with Burkina Faso, they are tall people.
People from Niger as well.
Thank you. So people now, when I came to the Caribbean, that's how I was able to make all these connections. But when I was in Ghana, I thought like almost every person that was brought to this part of the world is from the south of Ghana. But literally, they were from the north of the country.
Yeah. No, and that is so important because, again, for me as well, in Ghana, you know, and just some very subtle things. So in the Caribbean, we have a way whenever we are annoyed, we do this. You suck your teeth. We call it chups. And I remember in Ghana, and this was in Accra, because you know the traffic in Accra is just really bad. And our driver just kept saying, you know, right. You know, and I'm like, but how does he know this? And so when I asked him, he said, well, that's what we do here. And I said, well, that's what we do back in the Caribbean, you know? And so that alone is just one of those things. And it's just there. And I think it's important that the work that you're doing is so important. in respect of documenting those cultural connections that were not lost
You
as a
see,
result of colonization and slavery.
I don't know if you guys have mini buses in here. I've not seen it yet.
We have mini buses, yes, and they all
So
have names.
exactly. So I went to Jamaica and then I think Guyana, and I'm like, last one, last two, one already, you're going, last one. And then people in Africa were like, where in Africa are you? I said, this is not Africa. This is the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Because we have the same culture. That's what we do. And it's exactly the same culture that was brought to this part of the world. So I'm just saying that the similarities is uncanny, and it's about time for us to do our possible best. I feel like with the prime ministers, president, they are doing it more like on a diplomatic level. But I'm not diplomat. I just want to do on.
You are a man. You are a roots man. You're a man on the ground.
Thank you, thank you. That is the way forward.
That's right. That's right. Now, one of the things you spoke about was just how difficult it is to get from Africa to the Caribbean. You have to go to the global north, and then from the global north, you have to head south, right? When that is something I think that really needs to change, because again, we have much more in common as people of African descent in the diaspora and people of Africa to us than the Europeans, the Northerners who essentially their ancestors oppressed us.
I think it's about time for Africans in Africa and Africans in the diaspora start having all this trade agreement in order for us to connect each other. And I believe that we have started it in terms of coming in here just to let people know that we are just the same people, that if you want to go on a vacation, instead of going to Dubai or go to the global north for vacation, you can actually fly to the Caribbean. So first of all, we just need to get to know each other, get to know that, you can actually have fun in this part of the world. And then we can start having the conversations of investing in direct flights from Africa to the Caribbean. It's really not easy. It's about time for us to break that Atlantic triangle, because trust me, during slavery, it was more like a triangle. And even after slavery, we're still going that triangle in terms of moving from Africa to Europe and Europe back to the Caribbean. And it's about time for Africans to break that, because you see, my problem with Africans is that they're always looking up to the West to change their stories. But they forget that they can put their resources together to change their own story. I keep telling Africans that the West is not your friend. China is not your friend. We are our own friends. It's about time for us to start trading among ourselves. If we can just think about it and be like, hey, this is my brother in Africa. How do I connect my brother? Then we put our resources together. Even if we have to get one airline that moves once in a week, trust me, slowly that route will be built. But we're all waiting for a white savior to come and save us. And I just hope that someday we wake up and smell the coffee ourselves.
Absolutely. And you speak there about the West, and for hundreds of years, the West has been telling very distorted stories, in essence, in many respects, dividing us, right?
Yep.
Because you still have these stereotypes, and I hear it all the time, and sometimes I have to correct people and say, actually, no, that is not accurate, to say of our brothers and sisters on the continent,
Yep.
So I think it's so important, the work that you're doing in respect of that storytelling bit, and to be able to want to connect us all together. Now, two final questions. How did you get into vlogging? Because in China, you started studying engineering, aeronautical engineering. So, and I know, in reading your bio and doing some research on you, that there is a huge African diaspora in China as well. And of course, and when I was in Taiwan, there was a brother from Ghana as well, through the Pan-Africana group that I was a part of, who was also doing that work, except he was doing that work culturally.
Yeah. With
drums and dancing and music. And that's where I learned about high life music, by the way. So, but how did that start? And it went from you doing that work there, but it now blossomed into something totally
Yeah.
Huge.
So basically, I was in school studying engineering, and I was like, you know what? It's about time for me to convert my passion into a profession. I love talking, and I'm like, why am I talking and no one is paying me for talking? If you love eating, why are you eating and no one is paying you for eating? So
Yes.
I started doing research on how to convert the talking into money.
Mhm.
So that led me to YouTube platform. I started making videos living in China as a black man. And my dad was not really happy about the kind of videos that I was making. So my dad called me home and said, hey, it's about time to do something that actually create impact in people's life. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, if that is the case, what do you think I can talk about? And my dad is like, you speak Chinese. Why don't you use the Chinese that you speak to clear the misconception about Africans living in China? And that is
Mhm.
why I started like making videos, changing the narrative about Africans living in China. But later on, I saw a lot of people coming to China because of my videos. And whenever they come, they were like, oh, I was scared of going to China. But when I saw your video, I decided to come in here. And I'm like, wow, if you came to China because of me, this is not my country. I guess I can use the same medium to change the narrative about Africa in Africa. So
Mhm.
2018, quit my job and left China to Africa. Everybody thought I was crazy. My friends were like, "You crazy to leave China and go back to Africa to just make videos?" And I'm like, you know what? I just want to make an impact and leave a legacy. If no one is creating positive videos about Africa, I will be the guy who will just go out there and do just that. So I went, started creating videos, and guess what? Africans were shocked to see that Africa is beautiful. They couldn't even believe it.
Yeah.
So they couldn't believe it. So the
Because
first
because what you have done, I think so. One of my professors, Dr. Lengmia, Kebuma Lengmia, who is from Ghana as well, he would say, we have to decolonize. We have to decolonize how we think about ourselves and how Western media has portrayed us. Because it
exactly.
was always about Africans living in huts, and it's
Mm,
always about this starving kid. It's always this starving kid who
yep.
always looks the same with the three flies on their
Yep.
faces. That's
Yep.
all Western media showed you of Africa, and instability and all of that, without even acknowledging the role that they played in the instability. So,
Exactly.
in terms of doing that representation, I think that's important as well.
Yeah, I think it's about time for Africans to start telling their own stories in a very
Yes.
positive way. I mean, no
Mhm.
country that I've been is perfect, but can we start projecting our various countries in a positive light? Because when you do that, it attracts investment, it attracts tourism, and it increases the GDP of the country. So I believe that it's
Yes.
about time for all of us to get involved, be ambassadors of our various countries, and help develop our countries, because no one will ever tell your stories better than yourself. So that is the narrative that I'm on, telling people that it's about time for us to tell our own stories. And I think I've done extremely well with that. And I see it has actually inspired a lot of creators to also get involved in terms of projecting their various countries in a positive light.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
And so, what are the next steps? What do you hope to get out of all, this really important work that you're doing on these platforms that we have, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of these various platforms? Will there be a book, a movie? What do you hope to do in
So
terms of building on that legacy?
definitely, it's gonna be a whole media house that will be projecting Africa in a positive light, and also Africans seeing themselves in a positive light on that platform. So it's more
Mhm.
like celebrating Africans across the globe. But the first goal is to make sure I travel to every black nation in the world to bring a positive story from each and every single country. And listen, there are a lot of countries to go, and
Yes.
I just can't wait.
We were brought everywhere and anywhere in the
Yeah,
world as a
exactly.
result of that horrible slavery era. you
Exactly.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yep. Anything else you wish to add, brother? It's so good having you in
I,
Grenada.
I just want to say that yesterday I felt like a diplomat. I felt like a whole celebrity at the national stadium. I couldn't believe that people in here watch my videos. So I just want to say I appreciate each and every one of you, and I can't wait to start making videos from Grenada. Even though I've not started yet, but tomorrow is my first day of going out there and immersing myself in the in your country and culture. So when you see me tomorrow anywhere or day after tomorrow, please say hi. Thank you.
Absolutely, my brother. It's so good having you again on the Bubb Report, and we look forward to seeing all of the exciting videos you plan to share about Grenada. So thank you again.
Welcome. Thank you. Appreciate you, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, my brother. Viewers and listeners, this is the Bubb Report. We thank you for tuning in to the last segment of the program. What we will do now is take a break and come back for the second segment of the program, where Dr. Patrick Entwine will be joining us to discuss the fallout and the economic impact of the funding freeze of USAID programs worldwide that, of course, is also having ripple effects across the Caribbean. We'll be right back after these messages, and please remember to like and share this week's live stream. Stand by.